DiPiano from Fem Pharma, and you are listening to or possibly watching the Love Mia Vita podcast. Today, my guest is the cancer fashionista, otherwise known as Melissa Berry. And as you might imagine from her title, Melissa and I are going to share some information. Mostly Melissa will be sharing information about thriving and feeling beautiful with cancer through a cancer diagnosis, post-treatment, all of those sorts of topics we hope to share with you today. And we hope that you'll come back and learn more from Melissa Berry and Cancer Fashionista. She has a wonderful program for anyone, whether you're a survivor or you have a loved one that's surviving, it doesn't matter. Melissa is your go-to person. So Melissa Berry, welcome to the Love Mia Vita podcast. I'm so excited to have you with us.
Well, thank you for, first of all, that incredibly warm welcome. I think you're amazing as well. And thank you for having me on this incredible and much needed platform.
Well, one of the things that was interesting about your background, at least to me, was you didn't start out with Cancer Fashionista. You have had an evolutionary process to get here. My understanding is that you were in fashion design and you were a publicist. So tell me a little bit more about your background.
Absolutely. I guess I always say I'm like a hybrid where fashion and cancer kind of bumped into each other. So if we rewind, I think I came out of my mother's womb playing with Barbie dolls. I mean, I used to play with Barbie dolls for so many hours that my neck would hurt. And I was just obsessed with fashion. My mom and my grandma were always like, and this is going way back. They used to go to A&S, otherwise known as Abraham and Strauss. And I just loved it. And then in college, I was a fashion design major. And after I graduated, I actually did an internship with Anne Klein in public relations. And I just fell in love with that whole world of dressing celebrities and coordinating events. And I had a really wonderful career in fashion and beauty PR. And I worked with celebrities. I've represented some really amazing brands like American Eagle Outfitters and Maidenform. And I've coordinated interviews with celebs like Sarah Jessica Parker. And I used to do like those Grammy lounges back in the day. So I was able to meet celebs that way. And it was a lot of work, don't get me wrong, but I really loved it.
It sounds like it was very energizing as well. I can't imagine dressing somebody like Sarah Jessica Parker, who is one of my heroes. I loved the whole Sex and the City, the first part of the series, the second series, and then I guess there's another series that was recently launched. But yeah, I can't imagine having as much fun as I think you must have had doing what you do. And the work of publicity and communications is so important, but it's a skill that you obviously honed. And then you've taken that skill and you've brought it to Cancer Fashionista. But why Cancer Fashionista? Why did you pivot from pure fashion publicity to the Cancer Fashionista?
Absolutely. Great question, Jerry. So when I was about 32, in the height of my career and just starting to think about a family, my mom kept bugging me to get tested for the BRCA gene. We are from Ashkenazi Jewish descent. She had breast cancer. Her mother had breast cancer. My grandma's sister had, basically every woman on my mother's side of the family had breast cancer. And she was insistent that I get this test. And I thought, well, if I do test positive for the gene, I don't want to walk around feeling like I'm this time bomb about to go off. But if I don't get tested, then I'll get surprised by something. So I decided, we could probably have a whole other conversation about this. I'm a huge advocate of genetic testing and family history because, in fact, it saved my life. Long story short, I was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer 10 years later at the age of 42 during just a very regular checkup. And we caught it early stage because I was so closely monitored because of the genetic testing. And once I knew what my course of treatment was, which was chemo losing my hair, losing my breasts. And it's like, whoa, let's just take a second. Like I work, I talk to editors from Vogue magazine. I'm going on photo shoots, and not to minimize someone that has like, a regular job where they're at their desk. But I mean, I'm in the glamorous world, and I'm thinking, I don't even want to look like a supermodel. How am I just going to look like myself throughout this process? I don't want to go to a meeting and look at and everyone's going to feel sorry for me. Like, does she have cancer? So once I knew that my treatment was under control, I Googled, and I felt like, speaking of control, this was a way for me to control the situation. I'm like, let me find the wigs, let me find the lashes. Where do I get post-mastectomy bras from? And I started a list. And one of the first things that I caught my eye was like Anna Ono. I'm like, well, there must be more things that are like Anna Ono, like cool things that don't look like your doctor designed them. And I started this list. And then my mom and her friends, or a friend of a friend, would say, gee, Melissa, I know someone that was diagnosed with breast cancer. May I have that list? And the story goes that my good friend Tina, who is like my mama friend here in New Jersey, she was kind of my arms and legs, driving the kids around for me. She has a British accent. And I remember she was like, Melissa, you ought to just start a blog. And I'm like, Tina, like, I can't even fry an egg right now. Okay, fine. I mean, because Jerry, you're an entrepreneur. That's what we do. Like, once you get an idea in your head, and that's sort of like, and so it started with the blog, and then I figured, all right, I might as well put this thing on social media. And then it was like a magic wand. Once I realized that I was actually helping other women like me, I was like, well, I can't stop. I can't stop helping. If I could just help one woman a day, I feel like that my mission is fulfilled. So fast forward, here we are today. I have a nonprofit called the Cancer Fashionista Foundation, and I'm really on a mission to help women look and feel their best throughout their journey and beyond into survivorship. That's my goal.
There's nothing wrong. We think that perhaps there's something wrong with wanting to look good and feel good in the face of a chronic illness, whether it's cancer or it's an autoimmune disease. And by the way, I view cancer in a more hopeful way as a chronic condition. That's not to say that in every situation that's the case, because we do know that there are certain types of cancer that, present themselves differently, and are significantly more aggressive. So by no means am I suggesting that it isn't a terrible disease, but I am hopeful about where we are in terms of cancer diagnosis and treatment, especially breast cancer. And there's no reason why women should not want to feel and look like themselves, to feel beautiful every day. By the way, I love that you brought up Anna Ono Intimates. Dana D'Onofrio is super cool. She has done a wonderful job as an entrepreneur of building that business from scratch in the face of a cancer diagnosis, and remembering that, again, it's okay to want to feel beautiful, wanting to wear that lovely lingerie. And by the way, I agree with her. It's the reason why we developed some of the products that we have that address sex and intimacy. You want to feel good, you want to look good, you want your body to respond sexually and in every other way. So, and a lot of this is about thriving. And thriving means looking and feeling like you do right now. So those of you that are listening can't see Melissa, but she's absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
And but we all work at it, right? So, I get up.
I'm also 10 years out,
I look like this. You don't look like you do when you wake up in the morning. So we all work at it. And for some of us, for me, it's a little harder. For Melissa, it's less difficult. But
oh no, I'm a huge advocate of beauty products and lots of other things. So that's the next podcast episode.
but and beauty starts on the inside, right? So it starts with wanting to make that change every single day, take one step forward. And in your case, you described some of the challenges that you faced, and you mentioned, here you are in this fashion world, and you're interviewing celebrities, and you're going on photo shoots, etc. And even for some of us that sit there and we're visiting the lab or going to the manufacturing facility, I get you. I don't want to look sick. So in the face of some of my own health issues, I try my best to look like someone who is reasonably healthy. And yeah, so, I put on my makeup and do what I need to do. But tell us about some of the other challenges that you faced. I mean, I'm sure that there were you described some physical challenges. I'm sure that there were physical and emotional challenges. Perhaps you can share some of those with our listeners and our viewers.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I always say, especially if we're talking about breast cancer specifically, when a woman loses their hair, lashes, breasts, it is defeminizing. You don't feel like a woman. And, that's one of the reasons I do what I do today, because I don't feel like anyone should ever have to feel that way. So there's, the physical component, the physical appearance factor. And then certainly I think something that most doctors don't tell you about, because look, our oncologists are there to save our lives. Something that I didn't know about chemo until I went through it is the psychological effects that those drugs can have on you, and then on your mood and your depression. And then, sexually, it's like, when you're going through something like that, like sex, oftentimes, it'll fall to the bottom of the list on a good day. So, if you're going through something like breast cancer, it can certainly become a major issue. But, for me, I think it was a pretty, and like for most women, it was a pretty whopping combo of physical and emotional trauma and change, and having to adjust and just fearing for your life.
We've heard, I've heard, because I was on the board of Living Beyond Breast Cancer for 8 years, which, by the way, doesn't make me an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I had the opportunity. I won't say it was pleasure, although I did enjoy my tenure on Living Beyond Breast Cancer's board, but I had the opportunity to meet a number of women who were surviving and thriving with breast cancer, and understood more about the journey. I am not a survivor, but I do have family members that are thriving and surviving in the face of breast cancer diagnoses, and many friends who are doing the same. But what I did understand is that the emotional toll that it takes on you is often as bad as the physical toll. So losing one's breasts, one's hair, one's eyelashes, as you described, is your new reality. Excuse me. And how you navigate through that is really where I think some of us who are either drug developers or coaches and counselors can come to play a very integral part in facilitating, excuse me, losing my voice, a better chance of survival, or more importantly, I love to use the word thriving, because what we want to do is, what is past is past. We can't change that. We don't know what the future may hold, so you can only deal with the present. And in the present, dealing with your current reality means, if you have to put false eyelashes on, you do the false eyelashes, you do the eyebrows, you buy the wig, whether it's an inexpensive wig or a scarf, it doesn't matter, but you do something to make yourself look and feel great. If you need to see a pelvic physical therapist, or you need to use personal lubricants and moisturizers just to help with intimacy and dryness. And by the way, you said something earlier that intimacy falls to the very bottom of the list. And we hear this time and time again. And something that a friend of mine shared with me was that it was the one thing that made her still feel like she mattered, having that closeness with her partner. It doesn't matter whether you're in a same-sex relationship or in a heterosexual relationship, but intimacy was so important. And she said, listen, that's suffering. One of our scientific advisory board members, who was a gynecologist, said, listen, I counsel women not to even think about penetrative intercourse because it will hurt. So she says, just the intimacy takes many different terms, and starting with physical closeness and non-penetrative intercourse is really something that women may want to consider, but feeling like you matter is so critical. And so if you have a great gynecologist that can support you, it reminds you that, yes, your oncologist, who is fabulous and has hopefully saved your life or is working on saving your life, is a key. But your gynecologist is also very important. the cancer fashionista and the hairstylist and the esthetician. Those are also really important in the lives of many women who are thriving in the face of a cancer diagnosis and through treatment and beyond. What are you hearing? Are you hearing the same sort of things that I've heard, Melissa?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think that sex and intimacy can take a huge toll on a relationship. And if you're not in a relationship, even your, intimate relationship with yourself. And in speaking to women and actually speaking to you, what we're learning is that could be a really nice escape and a really wonderful way to continue to maintain a healthy bond with your partner, and it shouldn't fall to the bottom of the list. And if there is penetrative sex that hurts, like there are people like you that are here to help, especially, I mean, there's so many women that have issues on a good day, but then in the cancer community, that there are options, and that sex and intimacy is something that we should look at as part of our self-care. Because it can help us feel better throughout the process. And I know that a lot of women hearing this might say, oh my God, like I can't even, my head is not even there. Like, and it really depends on what part of your breast cancer experience you're at, and how much treatment you're undergoing, and how much surgery. But it's the kind of thing that if you can try and hold on to it in one way or another, it could be something that's really healthy for you physically and emotionally.
I think you said something just now that reminded me that it depends on where you are in your journey, right? So anytime we walk into a doctor's office and we get the news that was unexpected, whether it's a cancer diagnosis or a diagnosis of some other disease that is a chronic condition, there are those various phases, emotional phases that we go through. And so by no means do we want to diminish what you might be feeling at the moment that you hear those words, right? And then there's okay, what's the plan? Because we all want to know, okay, well, what's the plan? Because we have that basic instinct for survival, right? It's like, okay, am I going to live? How am I going to live? So sometimes that's more important. It's how am I going to live, right? And so the journey, where you are in the journey, makes a huge difference. And
absolutely, because we have to be realistic. Look, if you just found out, if you've just been recently diagnosed, like psychologically, you're not going to be there, and your partner hopefully will understand that. Or, if you are going through really aggressive chemotherapy, you're taking a lot of drugs, and, you can hardly make dinner. No, but there's a way to weave it in. And I feel like that you're really great at like teaching us how to remind us to do that doesn't have to be, necessarily full on sex. It can be kissing and foreplay and holding, and that's intimacy also. And those things are important to hang on to during the process.
Absolutely. We need to have someone that can prop us up. And I think you said cancer, I'm beautiful. And sometimes we need to say that to ourselves, because not everyone has a partner when they're going through this. But we need to be able to say to ourselves, cancer, I am beautiful, and I will make it through. And there are things that I can do for myself. So it comes down to the self-care. But again, it comes back to what you just shared with us, which is it depends on where you are in your journey, because you might feel like garbage. I mean, like, what the hell is going on with my body? How am I going to deal with this? If you have a family and you're trying to juggle a family, you're trying to juggle a career. So all those things have to weigh heavily on you, but it's taking it in bite-sized pieces too. So whenever I, feel like everything is just all in my face. So whatever it is, whatever the crisis is, it's work, it's my kid, it's my husband, it's whatever. I put a stop sign, actually have this imaginary stop sign, and I just put it up and I say, that's it. I'm going to focus on one thing right now, and everything else can wait. And when it comes to our health, we really have to focus 100%, right? If we can, I need to take care of me right now, especially if you have children who are still looking to you for care. or perhaps you have an elderly parent. You still need to think about yourself. You still need to put that oxygen mask on
I was
yourself.
about to say that. That's the analogy I'm thinking of. When you're in the airplane, you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself for someone else. And I think, especially if you're in a relationship, you want to make sure that you feel that feel good and you feel whole, so that you can also receive love and both physical and emotional love from your partner as well. You need to, like, I know the term is thrown around so much, you need to love yourself first. You really, really do.
Yes, absolutely. And we hear that in a lot of songs. I'm thinking of one, since I was a Grateful Dead person years ago.
You don't look like a deadhead, Jerry. Okay.
Yeah, I love not all of the songs, but there is a song, I'll just leave it with you. It's called Ripple. Listen to the lyrics. Those of you that are maybe in a certain age group cohort, you probably remember the song, but even for those of you that are younger, listen to the words of listen to Ripple by the Grateful Dead and the lyrics. It's a ballad. There's nothing weird about it, but the words are so true. You want to make sure that your cup is full, because if your cup is not full, then you can't share it with anyone else. So that's really the message of self-care. And in your case, Melissa, without getting into things that are too personal, how did you navigate through your journey?
Do you mean from like a sex and intimacy?
No, just in general, because I think that we can, we can certainly talk about sex and intimacy, but we don't necessarily need to know your personal story. But really, how did you navigate from sort of the point at which you were diagnosed to where you are today? Because you went from diagnosis and treatment, as I understand it, and then you started this 501c3. I mean, that's incredible.
Well, that's definitely the fortune cookie version. It's a short version, but I mean, it definitely is a process. I mean, just like any other woman, I had my dark moments where I looked in the mirror and I didn't recognize myself. And that was sort of my aha moment. I was like, you know what, even if I don't feel great and I'm just at home having my chemo day, maybe I'll put a little blush on, a little lip gloss. And I know it could sound superficial, but even when you just catch yourself in the mirror, or when you're just going to pick your kids up from school, like I always say, you don't need to look like a supermodel. You just kind of want to look like yourself. So I think it really is a process. And I think for me, it started with the lip gloss. It started with, okay, I'm going to put some color on my face. And you know what? I'm going to wear a cute dress to chemo because I'm going to feel better. And the person that I'm going with is going to feel better. It's just, it just lifts your spirits a bit more, and also is a sense of normalcy. And I think something else, and we could probably have a whole other episode about this, I did continue working as much as I could. I was still doing freelance PR, but I feel like work also gave me a sense of the old Melissa, like the pre-cancer Melissa, and it was the one thing that was normal. Like I didn't have to worry about scans or tests, or, I knew what I was doing. And there was a sense, it just made me feel like, like myself. And then, when I realized that I was looking and then finding products and services that I felt made me feel better, made me look better, I felt like I needed to share them with everyone. So it was sort of, that happened very organically, where I started to share my findings on social media. And then I was asked to, speak on panels. And I'm so proud to say that I'm now the board chair for the Triple Negative Breast Cancer Foundation, an incredible group. We were just actually at the Capitol yesterday, at the White House, rallying for better screening and better treatment options and all those things. And now I have two daughters, ages 16 and 20. So I have a responsibility to them, but I feel like I have a responsibility to women everywhere, to have the right treatment options in place. But for the short term, like I say, we can't cure cancer right now, but we can certainly do a better job at preventing it. And while we're all in it, how can we look and feel our best? And that is really my mission. And then I started the nonprofit so that I would have the ability to raise funding from other partners to, roll out programs that I couldn't take on or afford to do on my own. So I'm grateful that I've been able to build on this little idea that I had one day about a blog called Cancer Fashionista, and actually make an impact and help women live their best life through a pretty difficult time.
Well, it really is very important to women. It's about how to live, right? I think you said that. It's about how to live your best life. And it's about the quality of your life. And from what I understand about the work that you're doing through Cancer Fashionista and the Triple Negative Breast Cancer Foundation, you are working to help women to think about their own self-care, to think about ways in which they can take what was not so good news and to think about strategies that can help them each day, so incrementally, to make themselves feel better about what they are facing and how they can help other women. So, right, we are not alone. So whatever we happen to be diagnosed with, you know that you are not solely experiencing this. So there are other women. In your case, other women have been where you are. They may not know that. And it's so important for us to share this information, which is why organizations like yours do make a difference, to build community, to build support, and really to help women to think about ways in which they can regain their sense of self. One of the individuals who we had featured on a podcast was actually a Miss Arizona. Her name is Arpie Hamilton, and I do a shout out to Arpie because she's incredible. There's Megan Koziel, who is another survivor that we have featured. And they look magnificent, but that wasn't always the case. And they share some of their stories, with, both breasts being removed and same thing, the loss of hair, the loss of eyelashes. And then in the case of Arpie Hamilton, who went on to win Mrs. Arizona, taking that and moving forward with her new body, her changed look, it was a metamorphosis for her, right? Wow. It was a total metamorphosis for her. So she shared with others, still shares with others, that it is possible. It is possible to live your best life, even in the face of a diagnosis that she never anticipated. And she was a young survivor. And ditto with Megan Koziel and so many others that I could mention. But this is really, it's key for us to find our strategy to thrive. And that's the message for this podcast interview.
Absolutely.
With you.
And I love that you raise these other examples, because I'm just one woman, but there are so many incredible thrivers out there. And I feel like I've always said, I never had a big sister. And when you have breast cancer, it's like you want the big sister to be like, girl, this is where you go for your wigs. This is where you get the lashes from. And no one can do that better than someone who's walked the walk. Like, you can ask your friends, you can ask your family, and listen, the doctors are wonderful, but my doctor didn't know to suggest using a satin pillowcase when my hair was falling out, because the weft of a cotton pillowcase can really hurt your scalp. Like, who knew that? I didn't know that until it happened to me, and these funny little nuances. But there's a wonderful community out there, and there's so many great brands, like you had mentioned, and I know that cater, that really are so plugged into our needs. And I love, and that's why my face lights up, because I just love finding new products and new things that help make our lives more beautiful and better. And just like yours, your products are amazing. And I can't wait to, share more of that with the community, and to talk about how you don't have to, think that your sex life is over if you can't, have intercourse because it's too painful because of your treatment. Like, there are options out there, and there are products and experts like yourself. So just like I'm raising the flag for fashion and beauty, I love that you're doing it for sex and intimacy.
Yeah, we certainly think that's important. We also believe that there is an element of self-care that's important, because let's face it, if you're not in the mood, or you don't have a partner, or it hurts, then you should still take care of those tissues that have been perhaps assaulted by chemotherapy and radiation. And we didn't even get into the whole issue of chemical menopause, where, everything shuts down and you don't gradually move into menopause, just you're thrust into it. So you start to experience some of the same symptoms that you would if you were in natural menopause. But it's like, I've heard that it's like falling off a cliff. I mean, I went into natural menopause. It took years, 10 years before it all kind of stopped. And so that was a natural way of moving into menopause. But if you're in chemical menopause, I understand that it happens really suddenly and it can really abruptly impact your life. So you need to take care of yourself, and you need to remember that there are products that are made without hormones that can facilitate the way in which you navigate through individual symptoms. It's not one-stop shopping, by the way. So you may try on a number of different things, strategies. Could be for your skin, it could be for your intimate skin, as in the case of our products, could be for sleep, could be for the hot flashes. So there are lots of different ways to navigate some of the symptoms that you might be experiencing, help you to feel more beautiful through the process, and certainly less aggravated in the face of everything else that you're dealing with, both emotionally and physically.
Absolutely. You know what I love about what you do also is I love that I feel like you've drawn a parallel between like skincare for beauty and intimacy as self-care. Like it could be one and the same. It doesn't have to be complicated. It could be something that you do every day. Like some of your products, it's like putting your moisturizer on. You're just putting it somewhere else. I think it's great.
Yes. Well, we hope that women get the message of self-care, and it's not just a one-off. And it's, yes, of course, we have developed products that can be used, that can enhance or ease intimacy, but it's really about a product that you use daily. And it really is to protect yourself, protect your skin, to make yourself feel better. And when that happens, when you start to feel like your old self again, you start wanting to have, more fun, whatever that means to you, whatever that means.
Exactly. And I think we all need as much fun as we can have, especially when you're going through cancer diagnosis and treatment. So it's like to kind of go full circle to be able to retain this part of your life for yourself, or with someone else is a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. Well, Melissa Berry, the Cancer Fashionista, and Cancer, I'm beautiful. Yes, you are beautiful. And
So are you, Jerry. Thank you.
What you're doing is beautiful. And we always talk about paying it forward. It's the reason that I started FemPharma many years ago. I'm a big believer in women's health equity. I care deeply about women. I left the confines of a multinational pharmaceutical company where it was easy, you could intellectually coast and, learned a lot and, made the big money, blah, 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 blah. But it really wasn't enough to make a difference in women and women's healthcare. And I always admire women like yourself who did the same thing, stepped outside their comfort zone to make a difference and pay it forward. That's why we're here. That is why we're all here.
I'm so glad to have been able to talk to you today and to know you and your products. And I think we make a great team, Jerry.
Yes, we do. And we are grateful for you. We appreciate you. And to all of you that are listening to the Love Mia Vita podcast, I encourage you to check out Cancer Fashionista and Melissa Berry. If you happen to be a survivor and you are listening or watching this, she's incredible. She is inspirational. And more importantly, she will give you some fabulous tips. So check it out. Melissa, do you have any parting words? How do women find you? Give them your website.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your podcast. My podcast is Dear Cancer, I'm Beautiful, and you could find me on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts. You can also find me at cancerfashionista.com, and I'm also on Instagram at cancerfashionista and also Facebook.
So she's all over the place.
I'm all over the place.
She's all over social media. You will find her. Melissa Berry, thank you so much for being my guest on the Love Mia Vita podcast. And to all of those that are listening and watching, take care, be well, and remember to love Mia Vita.
Thank you so much for having me, Jerry. I hope to see you soon.
Take care.